Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mid Musings podcast, the podcast where we raise awareness about disabilities and mental health issues that affect people and the different ways they deal with it, as well as the ways mental health is impacted by their disabilities. And on today's episode, I've got a really interesting guest, and she is a relationship life coach and she's based in Pittsburgh. She is also diagnosed with ADHD, but she started this coaching business where she coaches and mentors people who have autism, newly diagnosed with autism, as well as people who are struggling with neurodivergence, as well as their parents as well. So it's such an interesting combination. So welcome, and her name is Anneke Elmhirst. Thank you so much for joining us today, Anneke.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Oh, wow. I know. I mean, so much that has been packed into your work as a life coach. But I know that, I mean, you suffer from ADHD yourself. So when was the pivotal moment when you realized that you have to do something about helping other um, people in the same category as you, and you became a life coach?
Oh, those were actually two different points. The My first realization was in college. I was a linguistics major. I
Mhm.
took a class on child language acquisition, and we learned about things that can impact language learning, such as autism. And I felt such a kinship with the people that were being described. And even though I didn't really realize that I was seeing myself in all of these diagnostic criteria.
Hmm.
Um, and so I decided I wanted to work with autistic people. Um, so I started out in behavior analysis and realized that very quickly that it was not for me. Um, Instead of this understanding and compassion that I really wanted to foster, it was all about control and trying to make people behave in specific ways. And
Okay.
that's not what I was about. So I decided to pivot into coaching where I could work with people who chose to work with me and really embrace the things that make them different, the things that make them unique, and their specific wants and needs from the world.
Oh, wow. That's so exciting. And for you, how has that experience that you had in university and then, I mean, doing all this, how has that shaped the work that you do right now?
So I think that the big impact that my experience as a neurodivergent person has had on my work with neurodivergent clients is this understanding that everything is subjective. Everything is filtered through this sensory experience that we have of the world. And obviously, no two people have that same experience. But I, for a long time, thought that I couldn't have ADHD, even though I know it's genetic and my mother has it in spades, and my dad apparently did too. Um, I thought I can't possibly have ADHD because I succeed in school. Um, and then it took a lot of work for me to detangle that and realize that just because my brain does latch on well to academic concepts doesn't mean that I'm not struggling in these ways that other people aren't actually struggling. Took
Is
me a
that why
long
you thought that you couldn't have ADHD?
Yeah, I was valedictorian of my high school class. I was like, there's no way that I have ADHD because I can focus on schoolwork. It was a really big struggle to focus on schoolwork, but it happened. And finally, I did enough sort of detangling of this internalized ableism to come to a point where I could ask my psychiatrist, hey, do you think that this is worth me pursuing a diagnosis? And she said, absolutely yes. So now, I've got my Concerta and it helps so much. I don't know how I ever managed without it.
Oh, thank you so much. So I mean, like, as someone who suffers from ADHD yourself, why have you chosen to launch a career in coaching?
Coaching sits in this very strange space right now. It's unregulated. And I don't say that as a good thing necessarily. Um, like anyone can call themselves a coach. Right now, I'm going through the training program at CTI to become a certified professional coactive coach. I'm actually finishing up next month. Um, and I really wanted to have an impact on the people that wanted to change and that may have been left behind by the system. Um, there's a lot of in therapy is so valuable. I have a therapist, but at the same time, there's a lot of pathologizing that happens in the system.
Mhm.
And I also work with polyamorous people who can't always find a therapist that is accepting of being polyamorous. They might say, well, because of your attachment style, that's just never going to work. And I'm never going to say that to a client. I'm never going to say, because of something in your mental health, you can't be polyamorous. So I find the freedom to work within a structured set of rules and ethics, but outside the medical model, I find that very freeing.
Oh, thank you. You know what? You said something interesting that a lot of people are now called life coaches. I mean, I don't mean to be patronizing, but do you think the job title life coach is as prestigious as it used to be? And what's the difference between being a coach and a counselor, as well as being a therapist? I mean, because what you've just said now that you do, it sounds like a bit of this and that, a bit of therapy, a bit of counseling, a bit of coaching, and you are in coaching yourself.
Yeah, I have both a therapist and a coach. I have a therapist for my mental health stuff. I have diagnoses outside of ADHD. I have depression, anxiety, PTSD.
Mhm.
Um, but I also have a coach for business and for things that are sort of floating in the middle ground between a mental health issue and um a business question or whatnot. Um, so the difference between coaching and therapy, the best way I've found to describe it is in metaphor because I love metaphor. Imagine you live in a house. That
Mhm.
house is your brain. If you notice something wrong with the house, sometimes you can fix it yourself. Sometimes it's just a light bulb went out
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
can repair it. Sometimes the damage is going to be bigger than that. Sometimes it's structural. You need to call a contractor, a plumber, an electrician. That's a therapist. They're specialized. They come in for a specific problem in your house and they will tell you they will diagnose it. They will tell you how to fix it. They will even help you figure out how to live with it if it's going to be chronic or lifelong.
Mhm.
A coach is much more like an interior designer. you have things in your house that you want to change, but you don't know where to start. You don't know how to paint the walls. You don't know what kind of furniture would look best. And so you call in a coach, an interior designer, to help you figure out what you want and how to make those changes. Um, and again, coaches can specialize. I work, with neurodivergence and polyamory. Some people work specifically with executives, leadership coaching. I don't function well in the leadership sphere, so I just stay, or not the leadership sphere, but the executive sphere. The how do I get this promotion? I have no interest in that. I I want to dig into the meat of what makes people people. Um, so that's my very long explanation of how coaching and therapy are sort of fundamentally different. Um, in the US anyway, a counselor is licensed to practice therapy, so I sort of put them in that bucket as well. Um, I think that answered your question fairly.
I think it does. I love your analogy of the interior design as well as the expert that you actually call to fix something. So I love that. But so going on from that, I as a coach, how do you help your clients to navigate this issue of neurodiversity, either it's at work or in schools or simply even in their relationships, or as you said that you coach people who are in polyamorous relationships. So how do you actually help them as a coach?
So the first step to good coaching, I would say, is listening, and not just listening and hearing what they're saying. It's listening and hearing what they're not saying. They could tell you a story, and they've told that story a million times. This happened to me when I was younger. This affects me in this way, etc. And my first job as a coach is to hear that, internalize it, and then ask them, what else? What are you not telling me? What are you avoiding? Um, and it's really a lot of people, if they've never had a coach or a therapist or any sort of similar professional work with them, it's a really new experience to be listened to in such a deep way. Um, and after the listening or during the listening, this all happens in one. My question is then, what do you want? Paint me a picture of what you want. And I keep this is going to sound bad or potentially mean, but I pick that picture apart. Not in the sense of I criticize it, but I excavate it. I say, okay, you say that you want to find a partner. Why? What is that partner going to do for you? What do you want in a relationship? What are you not giving to yourself at the same time as you would want to give it to a partner or take from a partner? Um, and my job is to accept the client purely as they are, and essentially it sounds hokey, but my job is to believe in them.
Oh, that's so brilliant. And it takes me right to my next question because you said what your own first steps should be when somebody comes to you. But before they come to you, what are the first critical steps that someone who is neurodivergent needs to take to be able to help them um, belong as a neurodivergent person when they first realize they are neurodivergent and they're like trying to adjust to the world of neurodivergence? What are those steps that they need to take to be able to feel a sense of belonging?
The first step, the last step, the big step is self-compassion. Um, I have been throwing around and refining a tagline for a long time, and diagnosed, not damaged is the closest I have come, because neurodivergent people, even if they don't know that they're neurodivergent, they know that something is different about themselves. They can see it reflected in everyone they engage with. And when you first get that label, it can be both really scary. Oh my God, there's something quote unquote wrong with me. Spoiler
Mhm.
alert, there's nothing wrong with you. Or it can be incredibly freeing.
Yeah.
This explains what has been going on with me my entire life. There are people like me, there is a word for me. That is incredibly powerful. Self-applied labels are incredibly powerful. So societally applied labels, not so much. Those can be limiting. But when you need to determine what you want your diagnosis to mean for you. And that's something that like I help with as a coach. That's something that like I worked with my therapist on when I got diagnosed as an adult with ADHD was, what does this actually mean for me? What changes? Because something is going to change. And accepting that you don't necessarily have control over what changes it can be hard. You have this new information, you have a new way of seeing the world and yourself. Take a step back, take a breath. Know that this is not the end of the world. This is not the end of your life. This is the start of it.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, I know. I mean, so much has been said about being neurodivergent, and people need to understand that neurodivergent people, they are normal in their own way. There's nothing different about them. They've got brain, they've got everything, as well as, I mean, they can function. Like you said, you function. Yeah, I mean, you were in your class, you you had a very good position and you excelled. So there's nothing absolutely different, but it's just the acceptance and this label that society has placed on them, you know, being recognized as somebody that is neurodivergent is different from just accepting that you are neurodivergent and
Mhm.
just going with it, flowing with it, and just, I mean, excelling in whatever you do. So I really appreciate what you do. And going on from there, do you think that society labels on people that are neurodivergent, is it something that should continue, or do you think there should be this stigma about neurodivergence or even disabilities should be done with?
There's, as a society, we need to change. We need to change in some really massive ways. And I don't even know if we have the social infrastructure to support those changes at this point, but I would say we need to start, but that's insulting. Disability advocates have been doing this work for so long, so we need to keep going. We need to redouble our efforts. Um, I I firmly believe that in a, maybe not a utopic, but in a better society, we would have so much more acceptance, not just of neurodivergence as a label, like, oh, this person is autistic. Okay, I'm going to accept and understand that. But there's so much in between there. We need to just accept people who maybe we don't know their labels, we don't know their lives, and they're doing something that we find weird, strange, off-putting. We can still accept that. We can still say, hey, I don't know you. I don't know your life. I don't know your brain. That's not like that's not my business. I can still accept you as another human being for who you are. Um, there's this incredible stigma on, yeah, incredible stigma on weirdness.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, we need to back off of that. Just
Yeah.
because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Denzel Washington that said something about this woke culture where we live in an era where people are being silenced so that other people can or won't be offended. So, I mean, it's like you can't actually speak up for what you believe. And it's just, I don't think it's right. And people should be accepted for who they are and how they are. And
Mhm.
nothing should have to change about anybody. If you love me, accept me. If you don't love me, somebody else will. I mean, it will be your loss. That's how I see it. And the way I think this affects people's mental health is just really huge, and there's not enough resources for helping neurodivergent people. So that's why I get people to talk about these issues on my podcast so that if anyone needs any help at all, they know where to go. They know who to reach out to. So I'm really grateful for your explanations and for everything that you've said about your services, but also where can listeners find you?
Sure. My website is just my name, Anneke dash ELMHIRST.com, Anneka dash Elmhirst.com. And I'm also on Instagram as All for Love Coaching.
I love that. All for love. Yes, everything should be about all for love. I mean, everything should be in, all in, you know,
Mhm.
or, either way. But could you tell me one of the memorable experiences you had with one of your clients? I mean, I read it on your blog where somebody did something that was really, I mean, outrageous. And I just want you to share that with my listeners.
Oh, which I've written about. I've de-identified, of course. I've written about a lot of my clients, but
In this instance, it was somebody who reached out to you for coaching, and now you.
okay, yes. I I since I work in the polyamorous sphere, sometimes people take that the wrong way. And so I had someone reach out to me for coaching, and we had our initial conversation, and it was fine. It was, I hate to use the word normal, but it felt very standard. And then I got on the next actual call with him, and he was essentially expecting me to do phone sex for him. I don't understand. It was a very bizarre experience, but like, again, because I work in this sphere of relationships, people assume that I'm going to be somewhat some a romantic or sexual creature to them, and I'm really not. I'm a professional.
Yeah, exactly. You got to take a professional stance when it comes to issues like that. I mean, I laughed and laughed and laughed when I read that. I was like, wow. I mean, you get all sort of people like when you're on TikTok these days, you get people reaching out to say, wow, I'm gonna send you some money. I'm a billionaire. I just want you to do this or that. I mean, it's crazy. We live in a crazy world these days because of this social media.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure hosting you. This podcast will be shared on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe and share with friends and family. And also keep listening, keep sharing, keep smiling, and keep awesome keep being awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been fun having you. Stay
Thank you so much for
safe.
having
Thank you. Bye.